For today's drill, we'll be learning about pyrolysis, fire behavior, and proper ventilation. What we learn today can be applied in your fire attack, suppression, and search and rescue operations. To get an idea of what's actually happening, we'll be utilizing a house fire prop to demonstrate the pyrolysis process. We'll go over how this is a vital part of our fire triangle and tetrahedron with examples of proper and improper ventilation. If we understand how a fire burns, what it needs to stay alive, and how to protect ourselves from unexpected events such as a flashover or a backdraft, we'll have a better chance at saving life and property not only in a timely manner, but in the safest methods for our firefighters. Before we begin, let's get an understanding of what the fire triangle and tetrahedron are and how they play a role in today's lesson. The fire triangle illustrates three elements a fire needs to ignite: heat, fuel, and an oxidizing agent, usually oxygen. A fire can naturally occur when these elements are present and combined in the right mixture. A fire can be prevented or extinguished by removing any one of these elements in the fire triangle. For example, covering a fire with a blanket or closing a door removes the oxygen part of the triangle and can extinguish the fire. The fire tetrahedron represents the addition of a component, the chemical chain reaction to the three elements already in the triangle. Once a fire has started, the resulting exothermic chain reaction sustains the fire and allows it to continue until at least one of the elements of the fire is removed. We have the power to control each element of the fire, such as removing the oxygen or cooling the heat, but let's get more of an understanding of the fuel and how we can control it. Our fuel is generated in a process called pyrolysis. Pyrolysis is a thermo-decomposition of solid substances being transformed directly into gases. Pyrolysis is an endothermic reaction, meaning it requires heat to start and continue, which is not only important at the beginning of your attack, but also in your overhaul. We'll touch on that a little later. The most common substances to pyrolyze are natural, like wood or fabric. Most natural materials in a structure start to decompose between 490 and 570 degrees. So let's break this down into simple terms. These natural materials, such as wood and fabric, aren't actually burning. They're heating up, releasing flammable toxic gases, and those gases are your fuel element. It's important to know that this process of fuel generation can start and continue in the absence of oxygen and could cause explosive results when the ratio of these elements are greatly differentiated and rapidly combined at the right mixture, such as a backdraft or a flashover, depending on the stage of the fire event. Let's take a look at our fire prop. As you can see, the first floor room in the Alpha Bravo corner has a very active, hungry fire. At this point, the fire has reached temperatures over 1,000 degrees and has plenty of fuel being generated and burned with the abundance of oxygen present. In this first video, I'm going to close the door and smother the fire by removing the oxygen. Let's see what happens when that fuel continues to build and we introduce a flame back to that fuel that is being created through the pyrolysis process.
Alright, so we pretty much got it. We took away all the oxygen and it tried to smother itself out. Which is basically why you can close a door to help stop the spread there. See, all I did was light the fumes that were coming off of that. The chemicals that are coming off of it through the pyrolysis are what's actually flammable here. And they're rolling up here. If you guys want to take the tick, he has a tick over there. If you look at the tick, you can see the temperatures in the different rooms that you have. If you look up here, you can see what's going on. I can open the stairway here. That's open. Try to get the smoke to travel up higher here. Off a little bit.
That's all of it.
Okay, now the fire looks like it's out, but look what happens when I introduce oxygen at a rapid pace through that other first floor window. So as you can see, when I opened the fire door, the fire was smothered from oxygen, but the pyrolysis process was still generating fuel. This created a mixture that was too rich to ignite. When I opened the adjacent window, the ratios of our fire elements were no longer offset, and they rapidly combined to the right mixture, causing a backdraft. Okay, now let's say you vented the roof and broke the windows to vent the structure, and you're about to make entry. At this point, without your knowledge, the fire room is still not vented due to a closed fire door between the two rooms. Unfortunately, before checking the front door for signs of a backdraft, you open the front door. I'm sure you can imagine how tragic that backdraft would have been for your entry team if this were a full-size home. This is why you should always check for signs of a backdraft before making entry, even if you believe it's vented. Make sure you can see smoke or fuel exiting the vented windows or roof openings. You also want to look for smoke entering and exiting, sort of like breathing around the edges of your doors and windows. Also check the windows for brown or black staining and or flexing of the window pane. Now let's see what happens when we properly vent the structure and we don't have a fire door sealing off our fire room.
We want it to just flow out through the top here. See, if you look on this side, you see that the flames are burning in this room here, but there's no fuel in this, there's no wood in this room, but there are the off gases that are coming off of the wood. And I don't know if you can get the tick in there to see what the temperature is at the ceiling versus the floor.
Through the door. Shove it in there.
Yeah, don't do that.
Can't afford to buy another one.
All right, what's the temperature in this room at the floor?
It's at 487. Now it's up to 5.
How about the ceiling? If you go and look at what we got on the ceiling there.
631.
All right, so we're 200 degrees difference just from the floor to the ceiling. That's why you want to stay low. So you see how it didn't have much of a reaction? We have everything open right here, and the gases are able to ventilate right out to the roof. So it didn't give you that big puff of explosion that we had the first time there. Now that I actually have the inner door open.
Now that we've verified we have proper ventilation, our entry team can open the front door and perform fire suppression and or search and rescue operations without the dangers of causing an explosion.
If we don't ventilate, and I close off the doors,
Put your face right in front of the door.
Did you notice the puffs of smoke going in and out of the top corners of the door? Our fire needs to suck in oxygen, but as the heat increases, the pressure in the room pushes out the excess fuel or smoke through the same locations. This is sometimes called the breathing effect. Our fuel is building again, showing signs of potential backdraft. Rapidly introducing oxygen to this environment at this point could guarantee it.
I'm not doing that. We let it smother itself out a little bit. What? Yeah, there's a stairwell.
Between floors.
There's a stairwell in there?
There's a stairwell. This is my stairwell right here. I can open and close the stairway to go up here. See that? There was no place for the gases to go, so they stored in the top part of the room. And given that we had already lit embers down here, everything was ready. Just need to add the oxygen, and that would make your explosion happen. So I'm going to open this back up, which is the inner door that connects these two rooms, to allow the gases to come in here, go up our stairwell, come out here as you can see, and go up out through the roof. As you can see up from the top there, there's smoke coming out there and out through our vents right here. Now we can make entry. It didn't explode.
Remember, although you believe it's safe to make entry, we still have a large fuel load being stored and being generated in this room. If you don't cool the area or break up the thermal layer of gases, any spark or ember could reignite the room with you inside.
You just have to light the gases. And that's how fire can travel from one room to the other without there being any fuel in that room. It's just the fact that the gases are coming in here, and when they complete the triangle, they're going to light up, and they're going to light up anything in that room. And especially if it's over 1200 degrees, that flashover is going to cause anything in that room to burn instantly, including you. Just a signal room. Props not really airtight anymore, but these are really tight. Let that die down a little bit here.
Yeah, it's still going.
A little bit of melting going on between the two.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice. Now it's starting to suck. See a little puffs of smoke? It's trying to breathe, but it's also trying to burn. So you're going to see puffs go in and out through these little cracks here. And that's also what can happen if you thought you had a room out. If you sprayed it, you thought you put everything out, you still have the hot spots in there that are off gassing, and you move on to the next room that's beyond it. If this room gets hot enough again and gets the oxygen, you're going to have this behind you. So you have to make sure you put out everything you can, hopefully have proper ventilation so that the gases can get out before you proceed beyond the room, hopefully directly above it if you can. I don't have a way of ventilating to this room here. That I've made it so it has to travel. But if you can vent directly above wherever your fire source is or wherever you want to go, that'll get the gases out of that room so you don't have accidents like that happen where you get past it and it reignites behind you.
Okay, let's move on to fire suppression. Not only do you want to make sure you have enough water based on your fire size, you also want to have sufficient cooling to prohibit future ignition or rekindle of a room you believe is out. As you can see, I'm attacking this fire with an insufficient water source. Although I'm spraying water all over the room, the temperature in the room is not affected. As the heat evaporates the water, the room continues to suck oxygen, and the fire ultimately wins the battle.
Suck the door and smother it. That's right, smother it.
Try that.
Pour the water down the chimney. Very good. That's
Short man rope. I can't reach that. Squeeze it out.
I don't know. Temporarily.
Notice the smoke or fuel load in that room? Although you don't see any flames, how long do you think we have until this fire reignites?
Spray water on it.
Stuff out of here. It's messy.
Well, that didn't take long. Hopefully your entry team didn't move beyond this room. Situations such as this could cause you to get trapped on the other side of a fire you thought you extinguished. Okay, now that we got that out of our systems, always remember, big fire means big water. Make sure you're putting enough wet stuff on the red stuff, and make sure you put it all out the first time. So that concludes today's drill. I hope you can take what you've learned about pyrolysis, fire behavior, and proper ventilation for signs for or against entry and apply it in your fire attack, suppression, and search and rescue operations. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.